Shabbat Shalom, brothers and sisters in Yahweh, our Elohim, and welcome to our Shabbat Bible study. Praise Yah, it's Shabbat. And we're going to study today Bemidbar, which is Numbers, chapters 28, 29, and 30. So go ahead and grab your Bible. Doesn't matter what translation you're reading from. If you're reading from a KJV or a new version or the New King James or whatever translation besides a Hebrew Bible, your wording's probably going to be a little bit different, but it's pretty much all real close. You'll be able to understand. Okay? We'll just put it that way. The translation matters because words have meanings, and when you get into Greco-Roman translations, it changes the meanings of the words. So the Bible that I use is a direct translation from Hebrew to English. Makes it easier to understand. But it doesn't matter. Whatever you got. Go ahead and grab it, and we'll get started tonight. Okay? I hope everybody had a wonderful week. And now we're in Shabbat, and you can just relax. It's time to chill and study Yah's Word and be in prayer and teach our children, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. Studying, praying, and teaching our children. Okay? So, if you want to, call your kids. Have them come and sit and listen. If this is your first time here at our channel, do your kids a favor and yourself. Start on Genesis 1:1 so that you understand everything that's going on here from the beginning. Whenever you read a book, gang, doesn't matter what kind of book you're reading, you don't start in the middle of the book. You start at the beginning of the book. That way you understand everything that's going on. And I try to do these studies to where it's very able to understand what's going on. Alright? So if you're new, start back in Genesis and work your way forward. It's not a matter of hurrying or being in a rush or anything, because guess what? We're on video. I'll be waiting right here for you. Just take your time, take it in, digest it, okay? Digest it and understand it. Because this is the word of Yahweh, our Elohim. And we need to be able to understand what our Elohim expects from us. And this book is our maintenance manual for life. It's like when you get in the glove box of your car and you find the maintenance manual for your car. Alright, open up your glove box in your temple and pull out the maintenance manual and start reading it so that we understand what our Creator, what our Elohim expects from us. Alright, not some man. No, it doesn't matter what some pastor, what some priest, whatever they say. It doesn't matter. It's what Yah says. Because Yah is our Elohim. He is our Creator. He's our Abba Father. He created you, me, and everything around us. So what He says matters, not what man says. Doesn't matter what I say, but I'm reading it straight out of Yah's Word. Right out of His book. Okay? So let's get started here tonight. Everybody comfortable? Got your Bibles and stuff? Okay. Bemidbar. Ooh, and glasses. Which is Numbers, chapter 28. Okay, now, as a preface to this, you got to understand that where we're at right now in Numbers, the generation that came out of Mitzrayim, the original generation that Moshe brought out of Mitzrayim, out of Egypt, they're all dead. Everybody's been killed. They've all died, whether it be in sin or whatever, judgment, whatever the case may be. That entire generation is gone, except for Yahshua. Except for Yahshua. I know my dogs. Yeah, I hear them. Except for Yahshua and Caleb. Okay, they're the only two that are still left alive. And Yahshua has just taken over for Moshe. So, let's get going here now. Chapter 28. Let's start that over. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Command the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, Take heed to bring my offering, my food for my offerings, made by fire, as a sweet fragrance to me, at their appointed time. And you shall say to them, This is the offering made by fire, which you bring to Yahweh, 2 male lambs, a year old, perfect ones, daily, a continual ascending offering. The one lamb you prepare in the morning, and the other lamb you prepare between the evenings, with 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering, mixed with 1/4 of a hin of pressed oil. A continual ascending offering which was offered at Mount Sinai for a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahweh. And its drink offering, 1/4 of a hin for each lamb. Pour out the drink to Yahweh as an offering in the set apart place. And the other lamb you prepare between the evenings, as the morning grain offering, and its drink offering you prepare it as an offering made by fire, a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. And on the Sabbath day, 2 lambs, a year old, perfect ones, and 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering mixed with oil for its drink offering. The ascending offering for every Sabbath, besides the continual ascending offering with its drink offering. And on the beginning of your new moons, you bring near an ascending offering to Yahweh, 2 young bulls, and 1 ram, and 7 lambs, a year old, perfect ones. 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering, mixed with oil, for each bull, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering, mixed with oil, for 1 ram. And 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as a grain offering for each lamb, as an ascending offering of sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahweh. And their drink offering is a hin of wine for a bull, and 1/3 of a hin for a ram, and 1/4 of a hin for a lamb. This is the ascending offering for each new moon throughout the new moons of the year. And 1 male goat as a sin offering to Yahweh is prepared, besides the continual ascending offering and its drink offering. And in the first new moon, on the 14th day, is the Pesach of Yahweh, Passover. Okay? As you can see here, gang, this is kind of a review, because we have a brand new generation and they need step-by-step instruction from the Father to be able to understand what's going on here, because their parents, they got it firsthand, and now it's their turn because all their parents are gone now. So this is kind of a review. Verse 17, And on the 15th day of this new moon is a festival. For 7 days unleavened bread is eaten. On the first day is a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. It's a Sabbath. And you shall bring near an offering made by fire, as an ascending offering to Yahweh, 2 young bulls, and 1 ram, and 7 lambs a year old, perfect ones. They are for you, perfect ones, okay? This is the best of your flocks that you're giving as an offering to the Most High, to your Elohim, your Creator. So you want it to be the best. You don't want to give him something half yuck, missing an eye or broken leg or anything like that. You want to give him the best. Okay? Now, I know you guys are going to say, okay, well, how do you determine the best? Well, you don't need a microscope, that's for sure. You don't have to count hairs to make sure that there's a certain number of red hairs and black hairs and all that kind of stuff. You don't need to do it. That's legalism, and that just gets crazy. That'll make you nuts. You take the best. Okay, you're raising animals. You know, if you're raising animals, you know what the best of your flock is. Those are the ones that Yahweh deserves. Because he is our Elohim and he deserves the best. Think back to Cain and Abel. Okay? Abel presented up the best of his to Yahweh, and Yahweh accepted it. Cain didn't. He gave him a half-baked offering, and Yah cursed him. Okay? So you can see, you don't want to do anything half-baked. You do it right. Alright? Because this is our Elohim. He deserves the best. Okay? Verse 20, and their grain offering, fine flour mixed with oil, prepare 3/10 of an ephah for a bull, and 2/10 for a ram. Prepare 1/10 of an ephah for each of the 7 lambs, and 1 goat as a sin offering to make atonement for you. Remember, the goat is your sin offering. Verse 23, prepare these beside the ascending offering of the morning, which is for a continual ascending offering. According to these, you are to prepare the food of the offering made by fire daily for 7 days, as a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. It is prepared besides the continual ascending offering and its drink offering. And on the 7th day, you have a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. It's a Sabbath, okay? Set apart, holy. Verse 26, and on the day of your first fruits, when you bring a new grain offering to Yahweh at your festival of Shavuot, you have a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. And you shall bring near an ascending offering as a sweet fragrance to Yahweh, 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 lambs a year old, with their grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah for each bull, 2/10 for 1 ram, 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs, 1 male goat to make atonement for you. Perfect ones, they are for you. Prepare them with their drink offerings, besides the continual ascending offering with its grain offerings. Okay? So we got that part covered. Like I said, this is a review. We have to let these new generation know about what's going on. And gang, this new generation doesn't have a clue about what's going on. So we really need to take the time to show them what this is all about. Because think about it, if Yahweh hadn't commanded Moshe to review for these people, they wouldn't have a clue. They'd be just like their parents, and they'd be lost, and they'd be arguing, and they'd be going against Moshe and going against Yahweh, and it would just be a mess again. So we've come a long way. It's been a long journey, 40 years that they've been wandering around in the desert, because they need to learn, and we need to teach them. Okay? All right, chapter 29. And in the 7th new moon, on the first day of the new moon, you have a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. It is Yom Teruah for you, which is Yom Kippur. Verse 2, and you shall prepare an ascending offering as a sweet fragrance to Yahweh, 1 young bull, 1 ram, 7 lambs, a year old, perfect ones. And their grain offering, fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah for the bull, 2/10 for the ram, and 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs, okay? And 1 male goat as a sin offering to make atonement for you. Boy, gang, it is sure a blessing that Yah sent Yehoshua here to earth to atone as the ultimate sacrifice for our sins. Can you imagine how many thousands of animals that we would be slaughtering to make atonement? Just to make atonement. This is not an ascending offering. This is just to make atonement. Imagine. And imagine all of those sacrifices that Yehoshua has taken upon himself for the past 2,000 years to take the place of all of those sacrifices. It's very humbling, isn't it? It's an incredible thing, and we need to be grateful for our Messiah. Absolutely. Thank the Father for sending us our Messiah. This is, wow, he shed his blood for us in place of all of these offerings. Quite humbling, isn't it? All right. Verse 6, beside the ascending offering with its grain offering for the new moon, the continual ascending offering with its grain offering and their drink offerings according to their right ruling, as a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahweh. And on the 10th day of this 7th new moon, you have a set-apart gathering, and you shall afflict your beings. You do no work. And you shall bring near an ascending offering to Yahweh, a sweet fragrance, 1 young bull, 1 ram, 7 lambs, a year old, perfect ones, they are for you. And their grain offering, fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah for the bull, 2/10 for 1 ram, 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs, 1 male goat as a sin offering, beside the sin offering for atonement, the continual ascending offering with its grain offering, and their drink offerings. And on the 15th day of the 7th new moon, you have a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. And you shall celebrate a festival to Yahweh 7 days. And you shall bring near an ascending offering, an offering made by fire, a sweet fragrance to Yahweh, 13 young bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs, a year old, perfect ones they are. And their grain offering, fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah for each of the 13 bulls, 2/10 for each of the 2 rams, and 1/10 for each of the 14 lambs. And 1 male goat as a sin offering, beside the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. Then on the 2nd day, 12 young bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs, a year old, perfect ones, and their grain offering and their drink offerings for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs by their number, according to the right ruling. And 1 male goat is a sin offering, beside the continual ascending offering with its grain offering and their drink offerings. And on the 3rd day, 11 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs, a year old, perfect ones, and their grain offering and their drink offerings for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs, by their number, according to the right ruling. And 1 goat is a sin offering, besides the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. Then on the 4th day, 10 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs, a year old, perfect ones, and their grain offering and their drink offerings for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs by their number, according to the right ruling. And 1 male goat is a sin offering, besides the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. Then on the 5th day, 9 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs, a year old, perfect ones, and their grain offerings and their drink offerings for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs, by their number, according to the right ruling. And 1 goat as a sin offering, beside the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. Then on the 6th day, 8 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs, a year old, perfect ones, and their grain offering and their drink offerings for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs by their number, according to the right ruling. And 1 goat as a sin offering, besides the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. Then on the 7th day, 7 bulls. There's some significance there. 7th day, 7 bulls. Yah loves that number. 2 rams, 14 lambs, a year old, perfect ones, and their grain offering and their drink offerings for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs by their number, according to the right ruling. And 1 goat as a sin offering, beside the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. And on the 8th day you have an assembly. You do no servile work. And you shall bring near an ascending offering, an offering made by fire, a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. 1 bull, 1 ram, 7 lambs, a year old, perfect ones. Their grain offering and their drink offerings for the bull, for the ram, and for the lambs by their number according to the right ruling. And 1 goat as a sin offering beside the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. Verse 39, these you prepare to Yahweh at your appointed times, besides your vowed offering and your voluntary offerings, as your ascending offerings and your grain offerings, as your drink offerings and your peace offerings. And Moshe spoke to the children of Israel according to all Yahweh commanded Moshe. If you want references to all of this, go back to Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23 has a lot more depth on what days and what times of the year and all the things that this is supposed to be. Okay? I understand. A lot of you are going to say, well, we don't do all that sacrifice stuff anymore. No, we don't. At least for now we don't. Of course, Ezekiel's temple hasn't been built yet. When Ezekiel's temple is built, then Messiah will be king on earth, and we will probably be doing a lot of this stuff again. Okay? Because Messiah is the high priest. So, according if he wants to or not, we could possibly be doing all this again, ascending offerings to the Father and sin offerings. But there's not supposed to be any sin in the millennial kingdom, but it's good to be familiar with all of this anyway. Okay? Alright, like I said, if you have any questions about any of this that we just read, refer to Leviticus 23. It goes into a lot more depth. Alright? Because I just kind of read it, and we didn't do any flippy flips. Notice we didn't do any flippy flips. I just read it, and it is a review. Okay? Alright, excuse me. Chapter 30. And Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Israel, saying, this is the word which Yahweh has commanded. When a man vows a vow to Yahweh, swears an oath to bind himself by some agreement, he does not break his word. He does, according to all that comes out of his mouth. Okay, what's an oath? A covenant. Okay. Verse 3. Or, if a woman vows a vow to Yahweh and binds herself by some agreement while in her father's house in her youth, and her father hears her vow, and the agreement by which she has bound herself, and her father has kept silent toward her, then all her vows shall stand, and every agreement with which she has bound herself stands. So if she's young and she's still living at home and her father hears these vows that she's making, these promises, these covenants with Yahweh, and he doesn't say anything against them, they stand. Doesn't matter how old she is, they stand. Okay? Verse 5. But if her father forbids her on the day that he hears, then none of her vows nor her agreements by which she has bound herself stand. So if her dad doesn't agree with it, and he says something about it, it's all null and void. It's done. Because her dad said no. And Yahweh pardons her, because her father has forbidden her. But if she at all belongs to a husband, while bound by her vows, or by a rash utterance from her lips by which she bound herself. Okay, so if she's married, and she is speaking to the father, making him promises of whatever it is that she's making covenants with the father about, if it's rash or it doesn't make any sense or it's goofy or whatever, okay? Verse 7, and her husband hears it, and he has kept silent toward her on the day that he hears. Then her vows shall stand, and her agreements by which she bound herself do stand. Now this has to do with whatever she is speaking in covenant with the father. It can affect the entire family. So the husband has a right to say yes or no on this, because if it affects the whole family, he's got a right to say, okay, no rash vows. Verse 8, but if her husband forbids her on the day that he hears it, he says no, then he has nullified her vow which she vowed, and the rash utterance of her lips by which she bound herself, and Yahweh pardons her. So if her husband says no go, you're not making this covenant with Yahweh, you're not doing it, then it's null and void. Yahweh respects the husband and the father in these instances. Okay? So if her dad says no, it's no. If her husband says no, it's no. Verse 9, but any vow of a widow or a divorced woman by which she has bound herself stands against her, because she's no longer in her father's house, and if she's a widow or divorced, she doesn't have a husband to say no. So it's on her. Whatever it is, it's on her. Verse 10, and if she vowed in her husband's house, or bound herself by an agreement with an oath, and her husband hears it and has kept silent towards her, and did not forbid her, then all her vows shall stand, and every agreement by which she bound herself stands. Okay? So whether they're good or bad, they're going to stand. Verse 12, but if her husband clearly nullified them on the day he heard them, then whatever came from her lips concerning her vows or concerning the agreement binding her, it does not stand. Her husband has nullified them, and Yahweh pardons her. Every vow and every binding oath to afflict her being. That's a fast. Afflicting your being is a fast. Let her husband confirm it, or let her husband nullify it. So, okay, what that says is if she vows a vow that she's going to fast, and her husband doesn't say no, then the entire family is going to fast. Okay? So see, rash decisions affect the whole family. Verse 14, but if her husband is altogether silent at her from day to day, then he confirms all her vows or all the agreements that bind her. He confirms them, because he kept silent towards her on the day that he heard. But if he nullifies them after he has heard, then he shall bear her crookedness. These are the laws which Yahweh commanded Moshe between a man and his wife, and between a father and his daughter in her youth, in her father's house. And that's the end of chapter 30. You can understand how a vow being made there by a rash word could really make a big impact on everyone in the house. It could really cause a lot of chaos if the husband or the father isn't paying attention. Now, there's a lot there. There's a lot there. But the first two chapters, those are just review for a new generation, because they need to know. Just like this generation needs to know. Just like our generation needs to know. And every generation before us. Because every generation from the time that Yehoshua was hung on the stake and resurrected and ascended, every generation after that's been corrupted. Ever since the Catholic Church established, it's been corrupted. So we have a lot of catching up to do, gang. And our kids, if they don't get this, if they don't understand this, and they don't realize this is real, this is true, and this is how it is, we could be damning an entire generation. We need to make them understand. They need to understand. We need to understand. Our parents, can't do anything about our parents. Depending on how old you are, your parents may not be here anymore. But we have the ability to change. We have the ability to make that choice, to choose to follow Yah's word, and to choose to teach our children, no matter how stubborn they are, no matter how, oh, I am so offended. Yeah, what a word. Offend them. Offend them. Because they need to know this. Their eternal soul depends on them knowing Yah's word, this whole book. Not just what we read tonight. Everything in here. They need to know. And we need to teach them. So, alright gang, that's all I've got for tonight. I'm done tugging on your ear and we're done in review. So I hope y'all got something out of this tonight. And like I was saying, refer back to Leviticus 23 on all those set apart days, on the feast days. That way you can be clear on it and you're not going to end up messing it up or whatever. End up being a disaster, end up being a burden. You don't want it to be a burden. You want it to be a blessing. So figure out how to do it right, so it is a blessing. Alright gang, I hope y'all have an awesome Shabbat. Praise Yah. Praise Yah for our Shabbat, our shalom, our peace, our blessed peace from the Elohim. Praise Yah. And you guys enjoy it. And we will see you again on Monday for our next extra canonical study in the book of Yasher. Okay? Alright gang. Y'all have a great weekend and we'll see you then. Shabbat Shalom.